And welcome back. Today we are flying, or rather driving, the MiG-29 in the dev server. And I do want to clarify, the MiG-29 flight model is likely going to change. It feels very wonky, very unfinished right now. And same deal with the R-73s. The R-73s right now are very strong, but they are kind of buggy. They will miss for no good reason. And they have the same antics as the SRAMs have sometimes at lower speed, where the thrust vectoring will go absolutely ballistic. Of course, this is accurate, just as that they are very hungry for flares, which is also pretty accurate. The R-27, however, is a little bit of a menace. It's very, very strong. You can basically not flare it. Rear aspect, it's a pretty confirmed kill. And then the last thing here that the MiG-29 has, that I will be showing you all versus bots in the test server, is the helmet mounted display. And I want to cover how this might affect top tier in the grand scheme of things. Now there is a little bit of a caveat to this, and it depends on how the missiles perform that it gets equipped. But the helmet mounted display in itself will not affect the game that much. Not in the grand scheme of things. Of course, in a 1v1, if you get a very flare resistant missile that tracks off the rail like this thing, you can get these absolutely ridiculous off-bore shots. However, these are very flare hungry, and these 1v1s don't happen that often. And it's very fun to do. It's very fun to look around, shoot people down, but mostly it's a bit of a quality of life thing, and you will kill furballs, for example, a little bit quicker. But I found that very often, and I went into the live server as well to see if I got into situations where it would actually benefit me, and more often than not it wouldn't really account for that much. But again, it is going to speed it up a little bit. It's going to make it so that you don't have to worry too much about lining up your plane. You can just keep flying straight. And of course it's going to be helpful, of course it's going to be powerful, but I don't think it's going to be as game breaking as some people might think it is. If it gets the helmet mounted display, for example, with R60 MKs and R24s, I don't think it would be that much of an issue. With the R73s as they are right now, I think it would be somewhat okay. And this is a very big quotation mark, because I still think that the R73s have absolutely no place in this game as of right now. I think the R60 MKs are more than enough. But it's mostly because I know that the MiG-29 is going to get a better flight model. As the MiG-29 is right now, the R-73s are probably okay. It's a bit of a missile bus, it's very, very fast, it's very good at acceleration. The maneuverability right now, however, is a little bit shitty. And we all know that the MiG-29 is supposed to be pretty damn maneuverable. So this is very, very surely going to be changing. And when you press the X-ray on this plane as well, and you can do it in the dev server, it looks like a F-14. And that's because this thing right now has the F-14 flight model. However, it doesn't have any wing sweep. The radar isn't that great, you can't even control the radar for the most part. So this thing screams placeholder. And I think it's going to be the same with the R-73. So you can see this, I shoot it up, it instantly starts locking, it instantly pulls in, and it shoots someone down. But you very often, just like that J8 on the bottom there as well, you saw that it simply just flew past the guy. Not sure what the reasoning for this is. If these connect, it's very good at cleaning up people that are in the way. You just come in like this, you look at them, you shoot them down. And that's the beauty of it. It makes you feel like you're playing goddamn Ace Combat. Because this is the kind of stuff you would never expect to be doing in War Thunder. That missile is simply going to miss. Why? No good reason, but it doesn't really matter. I'm just trying to show you how helpful the helmet mounted display is. And it definitely is. I'm not trying to undersell it. I'm not trying to like defend guys by saying, well, it's not that bad of a power creep. Because the power creep here is absolutely ridiculous. The power creep that we are about to experience is nuts. But I just want to say that the helmet mounted display is a byproduct of the strength that this vehicle has. Because the R-27s are going to be the main issue that I have with this patch so far. The R-73s, very flareable, very workable. Of course, if you don't have flares, you're going to absolutely suffer. And this is going to make the stock grind, for example, even worse. However, it's already pretty bad when you try to stock grind. It's already pretty shitty if you don't have flares to begin with. And very often you will have flares anyway, and I do advise you to at least, and I know I'm kind of against this, if you are stock grinding a vehicle, try to do a wager, whatever, however you pronounce it. Try to get some GE in so you can at least get the flares. You at least get some stock missiles nowadays, but not having flares with these kind of missiles in the lobby, you're gonna have a big problem. As it stands right now, the effective range of a AIM-9L is slightly longer, but we're talking a few percentiles. The thing is, this thing has such a strong seeker that you can lock people across the map in it in a head-on. If they are going a little bit sideways, you can lock them up from like 8 to 9 kilometers, and they will connect. They will reach the target. if they don't do that. They will reach them, at the very least. They might not connect, they might not blow them up, but you can tell that I just shot 4 missiles off in the span of like 2 seconds. Well, I can't really do that because it takes a second to charge them up. But you can just kind of look left, right and center, shoot all your missiles off. And if they aren't aware, if they aren't flaring, and these missiles will actually end up working properly, you're just gonna kill 1/3 of the lobby in a few seconds. And that's the strength of it. But again, and I keep reiterating this point, yes, it's very strong. Yes, it's going to be a little bit more of a power creep, but it mostly comes down to the missiles that you can slave to the helmet mounted display. If this thing had 6 R27s, for example, or unflammable R73s, then of course it would be a problem. Of course it would be way too strong. The issue is, or the good thing is, as of right now, that's not the case. We just have to wait for what kind of missiles they get. I like the helmet mounted display. I think it's a good quality of life thing. It's a good thing to make a plane feel different without making it too powerful. As long as, of course, that the missiles that it gets aren't that ridiculous. And I do think that getting 4 R60Ms together with 2 R27s is still plenty strong. And that's mostly down to the R27s. The MiG-29 is going to be very strong. It's probably going to be the biggest contender for the best plane in the game. The F-16, it's very good. We all know how it is to have 6 AIM-9Ls, but at the end of the day, these are still IR missiles only. And yes, they are all aspects, so it's going to probably fill the gap or like the spot of something like a J7E. It's going to have that kind of flight performance, except the F-16 will have a Vulcan. And it will have 6 all aspect missiles, which are pretty flare resistant, so it's not as limited in the kit. The J7E, for example, it has amazing flight performance, but it doesn't have the weapons to really back it up. You can really be effective in the small team fights, you can be really effective and annoying in like 1v1s and stuff, but when it comes to the early merges, where 80% of the games are determined, with the J7E you are just kind of limited. And sometimes you're just kind of flying around with your dick in your hand, everyone is flaring your missiles, everyone is only looking at you and you don't really have a real means of killing them. Whereas with something with 6 AIM-9Ls and a Vulcan, together with the fact that you have absolutely dummy thick acceleration, you can get a lot of stuff done. How the MiG-29 and the F-16 are going to fare against each other, we don't really know yet. It's going to completely come down to the missiles that this thing gets. If it's going to keep the R73s, if they are going to be changed, and if it's going to keep the R27s. And of course, how good the flight performance is going to become, because that's going to be the main selling point here. And yes, I know I'm not flying this optimally, but also I want you to take a look at the F-16, how hard it's pulling into us. We have 2 minutes of fuel left. It doesn't get much lower than that, and we are still struggling to get our nose on his stern. Especially when we were slowing down a lot. I'm not sure why I still have the air brake out, I just completely forgot about it. I'm so busy looking at the F-16, but it doesn't matter, I'm flying the test server and you can still see the discrepancy here. Yes, the F-16 has more power, but it's also because I am having that air brake out, and it's also because the F-16 has absolute ridiculous thrust to weight, so I didn't fly that very great. I know, you don't have to tell me. And if I had R73s there, I definitely could have locked him up with the helmet mounted display and gotten a few shots off. The thing is, it's still pretty easy to flare, unlike the R27. Even in head-ons, as you just saw, this thing is a bit ridiculous. I think it's too strong. The R27 from behind, basically undodgeable. R27 from the front, it depends a little bit on what you are flying. If it's like an F5 or a J7E, you can kind of get around it. But what you kind of have to force bad launches. And otherwise, the R27 is going to do things like this. Not an optimal launch. I'm shooting it away from him. He's flying away from us. He's like 6 kilometers away. F5 dodges it without doing anything. But the R27 is going to keep going. It's way too strong right now. And yes, he didn't flare it. Yes, he wasn't really flying it defensively. But still, look at that shot. It's stupid. These are things that I think are too strong. And yes, it's tier 8. Yes, it's supposed to be better than tier 7 and all that good stuff. But there is like a limit to this. What Gaijin really likes doing is adding a vehicle that's way beyond what we currently have. And then afterwards, fill in the gaps. So first they power creep the ever living hell out of it, and then they add a lot of vehicles that can't really compete and get welcomed by open arms by something like a MiG-29. If they now start adding like the mid stuff that's in between all these ranks, they are instantly already mostly useless. Whereas if they were to go progressively, there wouldn't be that much power creep, and the planes that get added constantly would still be somewhat relevant. Of course, it wouldn't probably make as much money, but I wouldn't know. I'm not a game developer. I'm just spitballing. But I am kind of curious about what you guys actually think. Are the R73s too strong? Is the helmet mounted display too strong? I know this is a little bit of a hot take, and I know that I might overstep my boundaries a little bit here, but I don't think that the helmet mounted display here is that much of an issue, because very often you will find that in the average game, and I'm talking about like 90% of the scenarios, you don't need it. You are just lining up your vehicle, because you can lock these things from so far away that it mostly doesn't really matter. Now yes, in these dogfights it's gonna be pretty strong, but again, they're pretty damn flammable, and if you are aware of the MiG-29's and you're not on the runway like these bots all are, then I don't think it's gonna be that much of an issue, but still. They need to remain exactly as they are, with bugs in place. If these things get a little bit of a buff, I don't think they deserve a place in the game right now. And it's not about the helmet mounted display yet again. They're a very strong combination. Thrust vectoring missile with helmet mounted display in close range fights. It's sick. It's fun. And as long as they are flammable and you are aware of them, I think that's somewhat fair. But I still think that this thing should not come out with R73s if they get buffed whatsoever. If they fix the navigation or the proximity views or whatever it is, and they will always connect if you don't flare, I think that's too strong. However, if they stay kind of buggy, if they aren't very reliable 24/7, I think it could be okay. But we definitely need some decompression, because right now at 11.7, like come on dude, like even with the R60Ms it's still going to be strong enough. It has no place at this low of a BR. We should be much higher BRs right now. The MiG-19 is almost the same BR as a fucking F2 Sabre. And I said this before, the F4U 1A is 2.7, the 1C is 4.7, and the only difference are the guns. However, the MiG-19 and the F2, they only differ 0.3 BR, but I can go on about compression all day long, and we all know that this is not going to change a damn thing. But what do you think about the helmet mounted display? Let me know in the comments. I'm open for discussion, so I hope you guys will be as well. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow with a J7E video.